"Babe, please open the door," he said. But that wasn't his voice. It sounded like him, just enough to trick me, just enough to make me reach for the lock. But something, some primal, cold instinct stopped me. I still remember that night like it happened yesterday, though it's been over a decade. You'd think memories fade. Some do, but not this one. Not when I close my eyes at night. Not when the wind shifts just right and I hear something outside my window that shouldn't be there. I was 17. My parents were out of town for one of their endless business trips, the kind they took together once every few months, leaving me with a fridge full of leftovers and a list of emergency numbers I'd never use. We lived in a 2-story house nestled far from the main road, surrounded by trees and dirt trails, the kind of rural area where nothing ever happened, until something did. That Friday night, I invited my boyfriend over. His name was Jason. He was sweet, a little stupid in the way teenage boys are, but kind. He was blonde and tall, with that awkward confidence some boys have before life humbles them. We'd only been dating for 2 months, but it felt like more. When you're a teenager, everything feels like forever. He came over around 9 p.m. We cuddled on the couch, watched a dumb horror movie on Netflix, made out for a while. Nothing serious. Just the kind of breathless, giggling closeness that lives in the heat of being 17 and in love. He left at midnight, right on time like we'd planned. His parents thought he was sleeping over at a friend's place, and mine didn't need to know anything. He kissed me goodbye at the door, whispered, "Love you," and jogged off into the night. I watched him disappear down the driveway, his hoodie bouncing with each step, the faint beam of his phone's flashlight bobbing ahead of him. The woods swallowed him, as they always did. I remember smiling, locking the door, and walking to the kitchen to grab some water. The house was quiet, save for the old pipes groaning like they always did when it got cold. I was halfway up the stairs when I heard it. Footsteps. Not loud, not rushed, but steady, slow, just outside the front door. I froze, one hand on the railing, the other clutching my phone. I waited, listening. Another step, then another. I exhaled in relief, stupidly thinking it was Jason. Maybe he forgot something. Maybe he wanted another kiss, and I liked that idea more than I should have. "Jason?" I called, walking slowly back toward the door. "You forgot something?" No answer. I stood on the other side of the door, heart ticking a little faster. I turned the lock, just starting to open it. That's when I heard it. "Babe, please open the door." It was almost his voice, but it wasn't. Too low, too slow, like someone trying to remember how to talk. A chill slid down my back. I hesitated, hand on the knob. Then, without warning, my phone lit up. A notification. My webcam had turned on. At first, I didn't understand. I just saw my front porch on screen, the glow of the motion sensor light casting long shadows. And then I saw him. It wasn't Jason. The man standing on my porch was tall, real thin, dressed in black from head to toe, hood pulled up, hands at his sides. His face was pale, gray even. The skin around his eyes looked sunken, hollow. He didn't blink. His mouth was a thin, bloodless line, as if someone had sketched it on with charcoal. He didn't move. He just stood there, waiting. My fingers froze on the doorknob. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I backed away from the door slowly, watching him through the camera feed. That's when he moved, just a little. His hand lifted and knocked, 3 slow taps. I still hadn't looked away from the screen when I heard the voice again, quieter this time. "Babe, open the door." Not a question, a demand. I ran upstairs, locked my bedroom door, called the police with shaking hands. The dispatcher stayed on the line with me while I crouched in the corner of my room, closet door open just enough for me to hide if I needed to. I remember the weight of silence between the dispatcher's calm voice and the soft knock 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 from downstairs. The police arrived in 20 minutes. He was gone. No sign of anyone, no footprints, no evidence, just an empty porch and a quiet open field. The officer searched the property and told me it was probably just a prank. Maybe someone passing through, some drifter. Nothing to worry about. But I knew better. Because something stuck with me, something I didn't tell them. When I looked at that man's face through the camera, something deep in my gut turned over. It wasn't just fear, it was recognition. Something about him felt familiar. Like I'd seen him before, but that didn't make sense. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Weeks passed. Jason stayed with me every time my parents went away after that, and even then I didn't feel safe. I started locking my bedroom door every night. I kept a bat under my bed. I even got a dog, big, loud and loyal. Still have her. She's old now, but she still growls at the front door some nights for no reason at all. And that would be the end of it, if not for what happened last week, because this story, it's not over. Not yet. It was a normal Thursday night. I'm 28 now, living in a small apartment in the city. Still jumpy about being alone at night. I was brushing my teeth before bed when I got a text. From Jason. We haven't spoken in years. Do you remember that night? I stared at my phone, toothpaste still in my mouth. Before I could reply, another message popped up. He came to my apartment last night. He said the same thing. I dropped the phone. My heart stuttered in my chest. I rinsed my mouth, hands trembling, and picked up the phone again. Another message was already there. Babe, please open the door. I called him immediately. No answer. I left voicemails, DMs, nothing. The next morning I got a call from his mom. Jason was missing. Disappeared from his apartment in the middle of the night. No signs of forced entry. His phone was found on the couch, still open to our last text conversation. The front door was wide open. The police are still investigating, but I know what happened. He came back. And last night, as I lay in bed with every light on, my phone lit up again. The webcam turned on, and there he was, standing outside the glass door of my balcony on the 10th floor. The same man, unchanged, not older, not human. He stood there staring in as if time hadn't passed at all, as if I was still 17. Then he lifted his hand and knocked, softly. And I swear to God, through the glass I heard him say it again. Babe, please open the door. I didn't sleep, and tonight I won't either, because I think he's getting closer, and I don't know what he is. Or what he wants. It was only after years had passed that I could tell this story without my hands shaking. Even now, when I think back to that night, I feel a deep sinking unease in my stomach. I was 17, and for the first time in my life, I was finally getting what I always wanted. A night alone in the house. My parents were away on a business trip, and though I had invited my friends over, none of them could make it. I had shrugged it off. One night alone wouldn't kill me. Or so I thought. Our villa was an architectural marvel, a vast glass-walled beauty overlooking the lake, set apart from the town by winding roads and dense clusters of trees. It was the kind of house that made you feel invincible, with its high-tech security and sweeping views. But that night, as I lay curled on the couch, binge-watching my favorite series, I started to feel the isolation in a way I hadn't before. The silence beyond the TV's glow was thick, almost oppressive. At around 11 p.m., I decided to call it a night. I turned off the TV, climbed the stairs to my bedroom, and let the stillness of the house settle over me. I wasn't scared, at least not yet. I checked my phone one last time, locked my bedroom door for good measure, and drifted into a light, dreamless sleep. Then, sometime past midnight, I woke up. At first, I didn't know why. The air was still, the house unchanged. But then I heard it. Soft footsteps outside. The sound was faint, hesitant. A slow crunch of gravel under measured steps. My breath caught in my throat. I sat up in bed, heart hammering, and strained to hear. Another step, then another. The footsteps weren't retreating, they were getting closer. My body turned ice cold as I realized that there were two sets of footsteps, moving in tandem. I slipped from my bed, my feet silent against the floor, and tiptoed toward the window. My hand trembled as I reached for the curtain, peeling it back just enough to see outside. Two men. They were moving strangely, their bodies low, their heads tilting at odd angles as if they were scanning the house, searching. The porch light cast long shadows over them, distorting their movements into something unnatural. One of them walked with an almost deliberate slowness, his steps exaggerated as if he was savoring the moment. The other moved in sharp, jerking motions, stopping suddenly before resuming his unnerving prowl. Then one of them spoke. "She's home alone tonight." The words were calm, almost conversational, but they might as well have been a gunshot in my ears. My breath stopped. My fingers gripped the curtain so hard they ached. They knew I was alone. Panic surged through me like ice water. I dropped the curtain and stumbled back from the window, my mind racing. My hands fumbled for my phone on the nightstand. I barely registered the sound of them testing the doors, first the front, then the back. A metallic click echoed as one of them tried the handle. Oh God, oh God. My shaking fingers managed to press the emergency number. The dial tone barely rang before a dispatcher's voice came through. "Hello," I whispered, barely daring to breathe. "There are men outside my house. They're trying to get in." "Stay on the line with me," the dispatcher said, her voice calm and firm. "Are your doors locked?" "Yes," I breathed, "but they are still..." A loud thump reverberated through the house. They were testing the windows now. I scrambled into my closet, curling into the smallest space I could find, my phone clutched in both hands. I could hear them, low murmurs, a hushed laugh, the unmistakable sound of fingers tapping against glass. Every second stretched into an eternity. "The police are on their way," the dispatcher assured me. "Stay hidden, stay quiet." Then sirens. The wailing cut through the night like a knife. The footsteps stopped. My breath hitched. For a moment all was silent. Then, running. They bolted, their shadows flitting past the windows, disappearing into the night. A sharp knock came at the front door, followed by a booming voice. "This is the police." My legs nearly gave out as I stumbled out of the closet, my hands still trembling as I unbolted the door. A uniformed officer stood there, his flashlight cutting through the dark. "Are you okay, miss?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I could speak. Behind him, more officers were already sweeping the property. "They're gone," he assured me, his voice steady. "We'll search the area, but you're safe now." Safe. The word felt foreign. I wasn't sure I'd ever feel truly safe again. The next morning, I learned the truth. One of the officers stayed behind, a grim expression on his face as he told me that a known rapist had escaped from prison a month ago. He had been seen in the area. The officer's words echoed in my mind. If they knew you were alone, they were watching you for a while. Watching me. I still don't know how long they had been out there before I heard them. I don't know how many times they had walked past my house, looking for a night just like that one. But I know this. I never wanted to be home alone again. I never used to be afraid of being alone, but after that night, something changed in me. I no longer trust the silence. I no longer believe that the darkness outside is empty. It happened on a cold autumn night. My husband, David, had left earlier that morning, rushing off to his parents' house 2 states away. His mother had taken a turn for the worse, and there was no question that he had to go. I'll only be gone for a few days, he had reassured me. Call me if you need anything. I had smiled, kissed him goodbye, and closed the door, relishing the quiet solitude of our house. I liked being alone sometimes. I told myself it would be a peaceful break, just me, a glass of wine, and a good book. But as night fell, the loneliness settled in heavier than I expected. By 11 p.m., I was curled up on the couch halfway through a crime novel when I heard it. Voices. They were faint, drifting from outside, distorted by the wind. My brows furrowed. I lived in a quiet neighborhood, and the only person nearby was my next-door neighbor, Lisa. She was a single mother of 2 little kids, and I doubted she'd be outside this late. I set my book down and went to the window. The streetlights cast pale yellow pools onto the empty road. Nothing. The voices had stopped. I turned away, telling myself I imagined it. Maybe the wind had carried them from farther down the street. Maybe someone was walking their dog. But just as I stepped away, a whisper, right outside the house. My heart lurched into my throat. The soft murmur of words, unintelligible yet deliberate. I swallowed hard and glanced toward Lisa's house. Was she outside? Maybe checking on her kids? I grabbed my jacket and stepping onto the porch. The night air was sharp and cold against my skin. The neighborhood was still, the only sound the dry rustling of leaves in the wind. "Lisa," I called out softly. Silence. I stepped further onto the lawn, glancing toward her house. Her lights were off. There was no sign of movement. I turned in a slow circle, my breath coming out in small white puffs. Then something made me look up, to the treehouse. Elisa had built it last summer for her kids. A small, sturdy wooden structure, nestled between the thick branches of an old oak tree. I had seen her children play in it countless times, their laughter echoing through the yard. But tonight there was no laughter. Tonight someone else was in there, a man. He stood in the open doorway of the treehouse, perfectly still, his body a dark silhouette against the dim interior. He was tall, his posture unnaturally rigid. His head was tilted slightly, as if studying me. My blood turned to ice. "What are you doing there?" I demanded, my voice sharp. "Who are you?" He didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, watching. Fear crept up my spine, clawing at my ribs. My fingers twitched at my sides, itching to reach for my phone. My gut screamed at me to run. "I'm calling the police," I warned, my voice louder now, more forceful. And that's when he laughed. It was the most horrifying sound I had ever heard. High-pitched, manic, and endless. It started as a giggle, then grew into something monstrous, a jagged cackle that didn't belong to the throat of a sane man. The sound filled the night, bouncing off the trees, seeping into my bones. I turned and ran. My legs barely worked as I stumbled back inside, slamming the door and locking it. My fingers were shaking as I fumbled for my phone. I dialed 911, gasping out the words. "There's a man. He's outside. He's in my neighbor's treehouse. He won't stop laughing." "Stay inside, ma'am," the dispatcher said. "We're sending officers now." I barely heard her. The laughter hadn't stopped. It drifted through the walls, through the windows, rising and falling in unnatural waves. Then suddenly, silence. I forced myself to look outside. The treehouse was empty. The doorway, once filled with his eerie presence, gaped open like a black mouth. I gripped the phone tighter. "He's gone," I whispered. "Stay where you are, ma'am. Officers are on the way." Minutes stretched like hours. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind against the windows made me flinch. Then, finally, flashing red and blue lights flooded the street. I yanked the door open as two officers approached. They searched the treehouse, the yard, the street. There was no sign of him. When one of the officers returned to speak with me, his face was grim. "Ma'am, we've been looking for someone in the area tonight," he said. "A patient escaped from the local psychiatric hospital." My stomach dropped. A patient? Yes, he was committed years ago after a series of violent incidents. We don't know how long he was watching the neighborhood before you saw him. The walls seemed to close in around me. He had been watching, listening, maybe longer than I would ever know. "Keep your doors locked," the officer continued. "We have patrols searching the area. If you see or hear anything at all, call us immediately." I nodded, but I wasn't really hearing him anymore. My mind was replaying the image of that man standing in the treehouse. The way he had looked at me, the way he had laughed, the way he had disappeared. I didn't sleep that night or the next. Even when David came home, I couldn't shake the feeling that the man had never really left. That somewhere out in the dark he was still watching, waiting, and smiling.